Welcome everybody to my new YouTube channel. I'm making this video as an introduction, kind of introduce myself, introduce everyone to the new channel. So my name's Daniel and the new channel is called Built and Raised. And basically we're a auto vlog, car channel, basically gonna just be vlogging my life and making videos about what I get involved in with cars. I have a lot of cars myself, and I do a lot of stuff with Hondas. That's mostly what it's going to be about, a lot of import stuff. So the first car on the channel is going to be the Integra that's sitting behind me, and I'm going to go over everything that we're going to get ready to start doing on the Integra. I've had this car for quite a while, a few years actually, and it's just been sitting and I haven't done anything with it. So that'll be the first car that we work on, and as the videos progress, there's going to be more cars that I introduce to the channel that you guys will get to see in later videos, and you know, we'll just get into it and start with the Integra. So this is the Integra, and this car was originally red when I got it. I had the whole entire car painted. I took everything apart, doors off, the hatch, the wing, which it didn't have a wing when I first bought it. I actually purchased that wing off eBay. But it has brand new fenders, brand new headlights, brand new lip, and brand new bumper, and it's all just kind of softly mounted on. Nothing's completely tied down or bolted down where it's supposed to go. The bumper's actually about to come off here in a little bit because I'm going to be washing this car. This car is very dirty. This car has been sitting for a few years after I got it painted. But the reason I took it apart is I wanted both sides of everything painted. I wanted the jams painted. That way I could have a completely blue car. I did not want there to be any visible red on this car. But yep, it's been sitting for a long time. After I got it painted, it sat for about 2 years. It's a pretty clean car. It wasn't automatic, so I do have to convert it to a 5-speed as well. I still have to put all this trim back on, and all the little things, they're still sitting here in the back. New taillights. They're just eBay taillights. Eventually, if I can find some good condition OEM ones, I want to use those. But I have a different bumper on here than factory. This bumper right here, I just found at a junkyard like a lot of years ago, and that's the one I'm going to end up using. And I have this shifter here. I will not be using this shifter. This shifter is for an RSX. I'm actually going to be using an Accord 5-speed trans, and I have a shifter and cables and everything. And this car was originally an ABS car, and I have everything I need here to make it just a regular non-ABS vehicle. It's a portioning valve in the front brake lines and the master. And this came off an EG Civic. And this pedal came off an EG Civic. I'm hoping that it will just bolt right up. It shouldn't have any issue there. And then I have this master here, and I think for now I'm just going to use this just to have proof of concept. And then this is the mount kit that I have. This mount kit was from Hassport. It's the EG K4 mount kit because, as you can see here, it says it's for an Accord or TSX Trans, which is what I'm going to be using. And I have somebody coming by, I think Friday or this weekend, in a couple days, and they're going to actually weld this on. I do not have a welder here at the moment, but they're going to weld this on because I don't want it just bolted on. I want it to be welded. That way it's stronger. And the wheels I have for it are some RFP1 end keys. They're used, but they have good tires on them and they're in good condition. But this is the car, and it's very, very dirty, and I'm actually losing daylight right now, so the first thing I'm going to get done is I'm going to get this car cleaned off, at least as much as I can.
It doesn't have to be completely cleaned. I just want to get it sprayed down. It's been a while. You can see the engine bay is just absolutely trashed. I had the whole engine bay painted and everything, but it's been sitting for a long time. So let's go ahead and get started cleaning this thing, and we'll see how it looks when it's done. So I got the Integra all washed up, and it's by no means a perfect job. It was dark, it's late, and I really just needed to get it clean enough so I could start working on it without it being completely trashed, specifically the engine bay. But you can see here that there is some touch up that I need to get with the body work done. And even though this is going to be covered up by the trim that I have for here, I still want to get it touched up. But it really just feels nice to actually have this thing cleaned, at least somewhat, because I haven't cleaned it in years since it was painted. It's just been kind of driving me nuts. It just sits outside in the corner of the lot here. Here's another spot here that needs to get touched up. Not 100% sure why that happened, but either way, I have guys that will fix all of that. This wing isn't even mounted, it's just barely held in there. I have to drill another hole in the front for both. I just got it mocked up to where I wanted it. It was not as easy to line this up as I would have originally thought, because this hatch didn't have any wing on it at all, and there was no holes on it. Or maybe there was 2 holes for the factory wing, I can't remember, but the holes didn't line up at all and I had to re-drill them. And I do want to get some kind of rubber grommet to stick there. That's where one of the factory antennas went, and here's the other one. And this grommet I stuck in here, it kind of fit perfectly and it works for now. It doesn't leak. And it's missing the door trim. I do have the rears. The front broke off because I didn't know that I needed to take the door panel off to get those clips out right. So the front's broke, but I do have the rear. They've been painted. I'm just going to get some front ones, have them painted. But either way, it's clean enough to get started. And I even cleaned out the engine bay. Hood prop on there. So yeah, I cleaned out the engine bay. It pretty much just pressure washed out. I gave it a nice little wipe down. It's not 100% done. There's still some like gunk, but it's enough to get started. They're going to be grinded in here when they weld on the mount. So, and I'm going to have to respray. I'm pretty sure you can get this color in a can, because the paint code on this color, for this color, is whatever paint code for the 5th gen Preludes came with this. I believe it's 5th gen Prelude. I used to have a 5th gen Prelude with this color, so yes, it is this. I don't know if the 4th gens came with it or not, but I know the color didn't come out quite like the 5th gens Preludes had. I know it's like a little bit more purple. It's hard to see on camera, but you can really pick it up in person. But just touching it up right here, I'm not too worried about that. First thing I'm going to do is I want to get these brake lines on, because it's going to be a lot easier with no engine in it. This car has no hydraulic brakes right now. So I'm going to get the brake lines on, and I'm going to get the clutch master on, get all this tape off the harness here, and get all that put back, the grommets there. And then I can go ahead and get started with everything else. These are actually the axles I'm going to use. These came out of a base model RSX. I'm almost positive these will work for what I need. And then the shifter and all that I'm going to do tomorrow, or not the shifter, the pedal assembly. I do need to cut a hole in the bottom of the chassis, kind of under where that exhaust goes, for the cables, and I'm trying to get that all done tomorrow. I was going to do the brake lines tonight, but it's late, I'm tired, and this thing's dripping wet, and I really don't feel like working in the wet. So I'm just going to go ahead and let it dry out inside the shop overnight, and I'll get started on it tomorrow. So we'll see you guys tomorrow when we get started. Okay, so I'm back at the Integra, and I'm getting ready to get started. What I need to get done tonight for sure is I need to get that bracket off for the mount, because I have a guy coming by tomorrow. He's going to grind this all down. He's going to weld on the mount that I have. So I just need to make sure I get that done, and then I'm going to go from there. I do want to try and get the fuel filter put back on and start getting these brake lines on, but if all I get done is that mount, I'm okay with that. I'm going to just grind it off. I'm going to grind off those 2 ears there, and then I'm going to grind down the spot welds, because I do not have a spot weld drill bit, and I think this is going to work just fine. It might be a little more destructive, but I don't need that bracket ever again, and I need to get that off, so this is what I'm going to get done. Okay, so I'm actually making some pretty good progress here. It's been probably about 25-30 minutes, and as you can see, I basically just ground away the spot welds until they were pretty much gone, or all the way through, and then I just took this sludge hammer here and I was just beating on it until I could get it to become free. And there was 2 spot welds here, 2 spot welds here, 2 right in here, right next to this ear on the inside, and there was 1 down here, and there's 2 up here. And I basically worked my way from here all the way over, and when hitting it with the sledgehammer wasn't working very well anymore, I took this chisel here and I put it in between here, and I slowly started I would hit the sledgehammer on this, and I would slowly start bringing it out, and it actually worked pretty well. All the spot welds are broken free. The only spot welds left are these 2 up here, and that's because I cannot get a grinder in here with this ear in the way, and I could probably grind this off or bang it down, but I noticed that they're starting to break here. If I can just keep wiggling this, I can oh, there it goes. So now it's off, and this thing is now a big pile of scrap, but I really didn't damage the frame too bad at all, really. I'm gonna go ahead and clean this up with the grinder, get all of the excess material off here. You can see I nicked it up here a little and over here, but really altogether that was a lot easier than I thought it would be. And you can do it with a grinder. You do not have to do it with a spot weld drill bit. In fact, I kind of prefer, if you have access to get a grinder in there, it's kind of easier to use a grinder in my opinion. But either way, both ways will work. But I'm going to go ahead and get this cleaned up, and then I'm going to get the bracket kind of mounted. I'm going to be using the 2 bolts
that go below for where the torque mount goes, and then the rest will be welded. That way I know exactly where it's supposed to be and then it's in the right spot. So I'll show you guys that here in a second, but first I'm gonna get this cleaned up with the grinder.
All right, so I went ahead and took the grinder and just kind of cleaned it up a little. You can see that I just ground down right here. I might grind down a little more there, but I don't know, it's fine. But I ground down here. The spot holds were right here. There's 2, 2, 2, 1, 1. That's the only thing holding that bracket on. So tomorrow I do have a can of color matching paint for this color code coming in to the auto parts store. So I'm hoping that it matches pretty good, but they're gonna be grinding down in this area over here for the bracket to go on. So when they're all done and everything, I'll go ahead and touch up the paint. And like I said, if it doesn't match 100%, I'm not too worried about it. It's not going to be the most visible thing. At least I just hope that it matches enough where you won't notice it, but we'll find out tomorrow. If not, I can have the body guys at my dealership go ahead and mix up some paint for this paint coat and color match it and get that part sprayed. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and get this bracket right here just test fitted on. Like I said, the 2 bolts that go in the bottom I'm going to be using right here and here for where the factory torque mount used to go, and then the rest of it's just going to be stitch welded on. I wanted it to be stronger. I know that you can drill out those holes and bolt it in, but eventually I want to make some power with this car, and I don't ever want this to be a weak point. But let's go ahead and get it test fitted in and get those 2 bottom bolts in. So I got the bracket test fit on. This is where it's going to be when he welds it. I'm going to have him weld some stitching here and the whole thing. These are the 2 bolts that I was talking about right here. This is where the lower torque mount went for the transmission for the original engine that went in the car, the B series. We're not going to need that anymore, and these 2 bolts are going to be used for me to line it up and know exactly where I need it to be. Now, I could not get this bracket to sit all the way against the frame rail here because I actually had to clear a little spot here. I just had to grind it down just a little bit, probably like 1/8 of an inch. There was a little piece on this spot welded on little like plate here. There was a little edge that stuck out about 1/8 of an inch that wouldn't allow this bracket to sit all the way flush against the frame rail. So I had to just grind that down, and then it sat flush and I can get both bolts in. And now I just need to wait for the guy to come weld it tomorrow. And this is what the bracket looks like from the top side here. This is where it's going to sit, and I'm really happy with how this came out. I'm probably going to end up painting this whole thing blue, since I do need to paint around the area he grinds and paint the area from where the old bracket was. So I'm probably just going to make that whole thing blue to match the other bracket over here, and for the simplicity of being able to paint around it. So I'll scuff it up and paint it. So the next thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to work on getting that fuel filter on and getting these brake lines on. So let's go ahead and get started on that. Alright, so I finally got these brake lines in, and they did not 100% line up the way it did in the EG that I got it from, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to be able to make them work. So here's the proportioning valve, and these 2 lines right here that come up here and here were for the rear. And I had this one, you can see I bent just a little bit up because it pointed down, but this one was more up here, and I had to just give it a couple bends. They were already bent in these spots. I just kind of bent them a little bit more to help bring it down, and then I had to raise this part up. But I made them work. They're not crimped or anything. It doesn't look factory, but it doesn't look terrible, and it's gonna work. And then this line right here goes to the front, and I didn't really have to modify that line at all. It kind of just went right in. And this line right here goes to the other front, the driver's side, and I didn't have to modify that either. Now the master cylinder that I had that came off the EG is not going to work because the two studs right here, the bolt or the eyelets for the studs on the master are clocked, whereas the studs on this are not. They're horizontal. So I'm gonna have to get a factory, you know, for the Integra master cylinder. But I actually believe I still have the one I took off this car, so I'm gonna grab it from home when I go home tonight and bring it here and see if I can't get it to work. I'm probably gonna have to tweak these lines a little, but I don't think that's gonna be a big deal. As long as I can get these two lines to go into the master, then I'm pretty sure this setup for the brake lines is gonna work. I would like to figure out a way to get this bolted down to the chassis, but right now I have this clip behind the fuel filter, and I have this clip right here, and I have this clip here, and this clip here. So if I could just get one bolt in this somehow, find maybe like a bracket to connect it, I'd be happy. And then you can see I got the fuel filter on, and that was no big deal. That was just a matter of reconnecting the line back up and then just bolting this back down. And I'm most likely going to be changing this fuel filter just because it's been sitting, but for mock-up and to make sure everything lines up, that is going to fit. And you can also see here that I got the tape off these wiring harnesses. That was a huge pain in the butt. That tape had been on there for a couple years now, and it was not easy to get off. It was really old. The residue from the tape just got everywhere, and you can see that there's a big pile of tape here that I need to clean up. But as far as the brake lines go and the fuel filter, I got that pretty much taken care of. Just need to make sure a master works. And tomorrow I'm gonna get this mounted on, go ahead and try and get the pedal in and the slate or the clutch master. Then I can start mocking up to get the engine put in. But we made good progress today, and I'm really happy with what we got done. Well, that's gonna wrap it up for this video. I'm tired and I want to get going home. It's late. I've been here all day. But I want to thank everyone for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys on the next video.